Tell me your name and where you live.
Okay. My name is Daniel Rincon, and I live in Palm Springs, California.
And you are a Republican.
I, because voted for Trump, got all of this Republican mail and the official card carrying, card and everything. So I suppose I vote Republican, yes, seeing as how those are the two major parties, and but I've never considered myself Republican whatsoever. It just happens to be that way right now.
But you did vote for Donald Trump.
I did vote for Donald Trump, it's true. But then I also voted for Obama in '08, and that was a Democratic bill. So
And so how did you make the shift from voting for Obama to supporting Donald Trump?
well, I think that at that time in '08, after 9/11 and the Bush administration, getting kind of caught up in that hype of, change coming to America through the Obama administration, I was 100% a part of it because, I definitely wanted that, just like everybody else did, it felt like. And, I suppose, you've got this person, this man that barely anybody knows in office, for his 8 years. I'm thinking, I vote him in. He's the man. He's the one everybody wants. The media praises him. You can't say a bad word about him. He must be doing everything right. So it wasn't until much later on, into his maybe second term, that when I was living in Los Angeles, where I started to realize, things weren't exactly what they seemed. What we were being told, compared to what was actually happening, you know, it was something that I was discovering more and more. And after, having these sort of realizations, I decided that during the 2016 election that we needed somebody that wasn't, playing the same game that Obama was playing, which would be Hillary Clinton. I feel like she would have just picked up where he left off and carried on, their agenda. So I wanted to go with somebody that was, completely off the cuff, off the mark, and that's exactly what we got. I was the person in '08 that said, if Trump was ever president, I would move to Canada. But then, people do change, and I'm a great example of that. And it's just by, doing your own research and discovering, information on your own, and not, taking what mainstream media, says, because it's there's so many other independent news sources out there that have, been for a long time, just without any kind of agenda, letting us know what's really going on. So just, following a lot of that, a lot of documentaries, and, it changed my left-leaning ways, my progressive upbringing completely did a 360 after I discovered, the truth about it and more about it. And I feel so much better about it, having discovered that, such things.
Is it difficult coming out as conservative in an area like Los Angeles? Did you receive some backlash for it?
It is. I didn't even realize that was, something that was inside of me, being, having been raised by the left, and, being so avant-garde myself, and, very free to, express myself in any which way I chose, especially being gay, like, just kind of riding that wave, 100%. And it wasn't until someone said, I had made a post on Facebook during the election, and someone said, it sounds like you're more conservative. And you hear that word and you immediately start to, kind of like, it's got that negative connotation attached to it. And I was like, conservative, that's nothing that I ever associated myself with, until I actually, like, found out more about, the Conservative Party, and, like, what that means, and the sort of values that they hold. And it was actually something that was inside of me all along too, you know. And I feel maybe when you're younger, you kind of have that sort of like, you know, that liberal streak to you, and then maybe, you know, when you kind of grow up and you get a little bit older, you sort of become a little bit more conservative in a way, and I definitely did. But in Los Angeles, it's, you know, the most, you know, non-conservative. Well, in Los Angeles City, the city of, it's definitely not as conservative. But the state of California has, like, I feel like a base, you know, like a foundation of conservatism, you know, just, you know, by the men that founded it, you know, from back in the day. And, you know, it's just, you know, not till modern times that we've got, you know, liberals that are extreme, you know, extremist liberals, you know, sort of, you know, just going, you know, going haywire and pretty much doing whatever, you know, they please. But that was such a turnoff to me, like, you know, the behavior and the lack of morals, the lack of, you know, empathy, the lack of any kind of like humanitarian anything really in Los Angeles. Like, I feel like, you know, it really kind of fed into a more conservative, you know, outlook for me in the end. So it was a lot of what, you know, I was seeing, you know, in the city that was turning me off, and the behavior that was turning me off by people, and, you know, their selfishness and their self-centeredness, and, you know, only caring about what you can do for them in the end. That really, you know, showed me that, you know, this is not how I want, you know, to treat people. This is not how I want to be treated myself. You know, I found a lot of, you know, a lot more of a conservative, you know, outlook as time went on. So I definitely feel like there's nothing wrong with that either. I feel like we've gone so far left, so far in the left, that it's like, just like in fashion, when you get, like with hemlines, if you go too, you know, high up, there's only one way to go, back down. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, I feel when you go so far left, you know, you think there's nowhere else to go but back to the right, and have a little bit more moral standings.
What do you think of that assumption that's kind of put out there, where it's like, well, you're gay, you're a person of color, you're a woman, you have to be a Democrat, and in actuality, do you see a lot more gays choosing to be conservative or Republican these days?
You know, I didn't realize that, you know, when you put yourself out there on Facebook, you know, especially during the election, and you know, have your views and your point of views, you know, being said and put out there, that people were like, you know, coming back at me with saying, you know, how could you support this man? You're gay. You know, like, basically that was it. Like, you're gay. You should only be thinking one way. You should only be acting and doing a certain, you know, like, a certain thing. And I felt like that in itself was like a great, you know, just example, or like it showed me that I was doing the right thing because of the ignorance, you know, like that was in those statements. And I never defined myself by my sexuality. It wasn't anything that because for me it's like breathing, you know, I can't change it, I can't do anything about it. You don't like it, then, you know, that's on you. And so it had nothing to do, like, the election really had nothing to do with being gay for me. But it's wonderful actually what's happened since the election, as far as, you know, meeting other conservative gays, because there's so many actually out there. I didn't realize this, but you know, since after the election, Facebook especially, it's been a great, you know, sort of platform to meet these people, and I feel okay because of it. I feel like, you know, there's other people out there, you know, all over the country, not even just the country, but all over the world, you know, like that can see this, you know, this movement, or are a part of this movement that, you know, may have also done the same thing, voted for Obama back in '08, but, you know, something changed, something clicked in them, something that they were able to discover on their own, you know, as far as, you know, how we are, where we're at now. So it's been great. I actually, it's so exciting to meet these people and to talk with them, and there's a lot in California actually. There's a whole bunch still. It's just that, you know, unfortunately in California, you know, like in the country, maybe, you know, some people they may not be able to be as, you know, proud or out vocally or about, you know, their beliefs, and they may have to worry about work or whatever kind of living situation is, because that's what's happening right now. People are losing their jobs, people are losing friends, people are losing family because just of how they think. And I mean, gays already had to go through such a thing, being gay, and now they're going through it yet again. But since we've had to go through it, we've got that thick skin, we know what, real, oppression is, right, and being discriminated against. So it's just one more, sort of bump in the road that, I feel like is worth, going through, because this is more than just sexuality. It's more than, than any of that sort of like, secondary, sort of thing. It's more about, coming together as a nation.
What do you think about conservative people such as, both of these men, Jewish conservatives, Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos, being compared to basically Nazis and white nationalists and all this, and it's just the extremes that things are being thrown. What do you think about that?
That's when you start to throw out you're a racist, you're a Nazi, you're a homophobe, you're a xenophobe. This is when you have no real argument. This is the scripted, words that the mainstream media uses, because they're so scared. This is their fear tactic. They repeat these words, just like, extreme terrorism back in 9/11. You keep repeating the same thing, and it's going to stick in people's heads. And anybody that actually knows or follows Ben Shapiro or Milo Yiannopoulos knows 100% that they're absolutely not Nazis. It's just it's just a great example of the lack of knowledge on the left part, that they would just immediately throw something like that out, especially with Ben Shapiro being Jewish and Milo Yiannopoulos, whose husband is black. It's when they have no leg to stand on, they're going to throw those words out at you. So to me, it means nothing. Like, if they were actual, horrible people that were doing horrible things, then I can absolutely see, like a justifiable, whatever label to put on there. But honestly, they're far from it.
In some way, we're going to need to save those labels for those people that those labels actually apply to.
Absolutely. I think, there are, of course, like, there's extremes in all groups, right? There's the good and the bad, and absolutely there's, still, white supremacy and, and black power, so it's the same kind of like thing. It's just, it should just be, designated for the people that are actually doing it, that are actually a part of those sort of things. Not the people that are conservative or have a different point of view from the mainstream. I mean, it's just so, it's just, to me, it's about the art of the argument, and if you have none, this is what you get. You get these ridiculous name-calling of, misrepresentation and villainizing these pictures being painted of people that are not true. That's fake news. It's calling Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos a Nazi. That is 100% fake news.
Actually, for the last question, I guess we should talk about your shirt. CNN is fake news.
It's a shirt that I got through InfoWars. Alex Jones.
And that just brings up a whole other litany of questions we could get.
Well, Alex Jones was one of the first people that I discovered, because Alex Jones was a sort of pioneer, I believe, as far as independent news goes. He's been doing it for so long and come up, from so little that, and included so many people that are now, like, Ben Shapiro, Stefan Molyneux, Milo Yiannopoulos, that you hear more and more about. He recognized these people and included them, in on the conversation. So I believe, say what you want about Alex Jones, but I believe it's also a part of fake news that you paint this picture of, some extremists, and, you run with a story that he may have done, compared to the million other stories that are incredible and totally justifiable, and you make him out to be some sort of, or people make him out to be some sort of, whack job. But to be honest with you, Alex Jones he's an Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius. We both have a lot of passion, and I really appreciate that. And he,
well, even Ben Shapiro, who I think his exact words were he called him a flaming pile of feces or garbage or something. Even Ben Shapiro, in the video where he's calling him that, he said, basically, but he still has a right to speak, and if they can censor Alex Jones off of YouTube, who else can they censor?
Well, absolutely. They're most threatened by InfoWars and Alex Jones because of the reach that he has and the numbers that he gets still. He just released an app, and it became one of the number one apps over CNN and Fox News in just a matter of days.
Do you think that the banning of him from basically he's been banned from now basically every platform except for Twitter, and do you think that's going to backfire?
It is, because it just goes to show, that what this man is saying is a complete threat to their agenda, to the powers that be, to the deep state. That they've, the plans that they've hatched for years. He's exposed and given us the truth for so long, and it's just now where he's becoming this household name in a way that he's even more of a threat, I believe, to them. So they're going to stop at nothing. He is definitely someone to watch, because it is true. If Alex Jones if he goes down, then anybody else could go down. Absolutely, nobody's safe. 100%.
And there's way worse people on the internet that they have, way worse people on YouTube that they haven't banned. I mean, there's people who spout really, hateful conspiracies that are far worse than anything Alex Jones has ever said, and they're not banned. The flat Earth people are not banned.
Right.
There's all sorts of people. So there's got to be a question of why. It's kind of funny. There was a conspiracy to ban the conspiracy theorist.
But that conspiracy theorist has been proven right on more occasions than not. He, again, I think he is. It's literally where I do believe you are getting news that you hear first. Like, you're not getting anywhere else. And Alex Jones is a patriot. He cares about this country. He's literally embodying like the spirit in which this movement is based upon. And it's the silent majority. But it's still a group of it's a group of people that is made up of everybody. It's just not one group of people. It is a diverse mix of people. When you look at people that are on the right, that are more on the conservative side, when you really kind of discover these names and these social media presences, you really do, you can find that it's not just what you might think it to be, which is just some white man. It's everybody, because it touches everybody, because it goes beyond race. If people can start to look beyond that, the color of someone's skin, and just truly what's in someone's heart and soul, I believe that that is where real change begins. That's where, but as long as we continue to do this divide and conquer and this race baiting and what separates us, instead of what connects us, it will continue to be like that. But people that are able to look past all the negativity and can see the connection that it makes with people, that's what I believe these independent news sources are doing. Like, they're 100% bringing every walk of life together. I don't care what anybody thinks, and it's unless you watch the show, you're a fan, and like, how else are you gonna know? Like, you just people just assume one thing. But I love this shirt. I have many shirts by Alex Jones. I will continue to support him because I do believe that his is a news source that needs to be supported. It's always good to have the other side of the spectrum. Another opinion on it. Not just what you hear, on CNN, which is always which has been proven time and time again to be. To be a lie, to be absolute 100% fake.
I mean, I don't even think of it as fake news. I think of them as propaganda. I mean, they promoted the Iraq.
Propaganda.
They promoted the Iraq War. They've promoted every war. They always have the military viewpoint. I mean, they're just a talking piece for parts of the government.
Well, I mean, you just have to look at, like, the people that are running the show. A lot of people need to find out more about the man that's behind the curtain. And not just the beautiful TV presenter that's reading, that script that all the other channels are too. It's literally like who's running that show too. Like, where is that money coming from? Who's in their pocket, or because a lot of the people that are a part of CNN, they've been a part of the major networks as well too. Like they're and all of NBC, ABC, CBS. They've all been notoriously left leaning. Left basically propaganda for the left. Like television and media. That before social media. It was television, and television was a huge transformative tool that was being used. Quite effectively. It's one of the best tools that the left has. To get their message across, and it 100% worked. That was one of the reasons why I moved to California, because I was raised by TV, and I was I believed just like everybody else to go out there and do the Hollywood thing, and become rich and famous, and and that's all that mattered. That was all. But once I actually got to California and was living that life, I realized that that's not at all what matters.
So here we are. It's primary election night in Wisconsin, and ever since 2010, when Scott Walker came in, the Democrats have just been losing election after election after election in this state. I think Donald Trump was the first Republican to. I want to say he was the first Republican to win Wisconsin since 1984, I think, was when Mondale lost Wisconsin, and ever since then it's been a Democrat. Democrats have been totally losing the state, losing all over the nation for a while now. Do you think the Democrats are out of touch, and do you think they're going to keep losing?
It's interesting because I do feel like they strike a chord with, especially now when you see this whole socialist movement happening, and there has been this underground, support of communism, like socialist, sort of wave that is now kind of seeing the light of day, and I think that is the thing that they think is going to be what saves them and what's going to make them it again. But when people actually find out what socialism really is, and what it's all about, and we see the examples in so many South American countries, Venezuela, and if that's all that they have really to offer, I definitely feel like this is the demise of the Democratic Party. They were
it's Hillary Clinton or the woman, what's her name, Ortiz?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, those are the two.
But all of the people that she supported, Ortiz, none of them won. So I think that people are starting to discover these words like socialism and whatever the case may be, and really seeing that it doesn't work, and the left is also based on their progressive ideology as well. But I think the more people even find out about that, like the history of the Democratic Party itself, like the ties to the KKK and to their eugenics and Planned Parenthood with Margaret Sanger, how much they've been a part of that. If people were to really find out the truth, discover this more, if that was made a mainstream story, which of course it would never be because the left controls the media, then people would definitely look at it in a different way. I just feel like the Democrats, they use the power of Hollywood and celebrity and
Beyonce and Lady Gaga doesn't win elections.
They don't win elections, but they still have this draw, and to the young, to the youth, and so it's still there, like it's kind of this like annoying sort of mosquito bite that you just can't seem to satisfy with any kind of itch. Like they just won't go away. Um, but I do believe that they're their own worst enemy. I do believe that the more and more that we see this erratic behavior, these temper tantrums, these um, out of touch, causes that they're supporting, the more that real Americans will, you know, just repel and run away from them, and it's right they should, because they had all of the opportunities and all of the chances. You had the Clinton administration, you had the Obama administration, and yet what was done? Like what actually was done for our black community, our Hispanic community, our gay community. I mean, if all you got from Obama was gay marriage, then you weren't paying enough attention.
And he had very little to do with anything about the being legalized, and people act like, well, the Republicans controlled the House and Senate the whole time. It's like, no, he went into the White House with a democratically controlled House and Senate. That's how he passed Obamacare, and a Supreme Court that supported him in the beginning at least. And yeah, we elect Democrats, and what did we get? A healthcare system run by the insurance company.
We got a scam. We got a 100% scam, because I believe that that's all that the Democrats really know, is to kind of like wheel and deal and kind of and sort of skirt around the actual issues with lies, and just pull over the ultimate scam on us, and try to rob the world of the most important country, in my opinion. They're trying to steal America, really, and completely change it from what we know it to be. And I think people are seeing this, and they don't want that to happen. I believe the progressive part of the left is literally progressing away from what it means to be American. What it means to what this country's founded on. From the Constitution itself. I believe that that's exactly what they're trying to progress into, which Americans won't stand for. This is and that's why Trump is president, because this was 8 years worth of hope that we put into somebody that didn't give it back, that didn't actually. And then that starts to open people's eyes up, and when they're disappointed like that, so it's on them. They had the chance, and they're not. It's not in their hands anymore. So they're just running scared. They're literally like, it's like it's like they're it's like the Hydra monster, right? You cut these heads off, and more grow back, and they're flailing and screaming, and they just won't give up without that sort of erratic, crazy radical fight. And but we people on the or people on the right, now need to sort of take that kind of energy, and but in a positive way, bring it also to the forefront, without being erratic and crazy. it's we're living in the time of basically the demise of the Democratic Party, and this is unfortunately what we see on TV and hear on on the radio and social media, and until it's completely done with, and it's just gonna keep on. But I don't know, it could turn into something different. Like the socialist movement, like it could. It could rise its ugly head without even knowing. And who knows what the next generation is going to bring. But I definitely feel like I have hope when I hear stories about the youth, more and more of the youth being more labeling or identifying themselves more conservative. They've seen the way it didn't work out with maybe with my generation and Generation X, and wanting to kind of better themselves, and that's great. I feel like there's so much power in faith, and people should, I'll never lose that, and I hope nobody else does too. And in some which way, shape, or form, something positive, something that continues to motivate people and get them out of bed to fight the good fight and really stand for what's right and not be afraid to speak up and say like what needs to be said, because the left gets way too much airtime. Their voices are we're hearing too much of what they have to say and have been for too long. So like I said, I think it's just when you go too far left, you just kind of snap back to the right, and I think that's what's going on right now. And of course, it's a backlash. It's not. But hopefully, I mean, I wonder if there'll ever be a day that people just they see or something happens where it does bring us together. That we do realize that there's more power in in uniting than being separate like this. So we'll see. It's the most interesting time right now.
Indeed.
We're literally living in history being made, and anyone that's not following along or paying attention, I feel really bad, because it's never been like this before. I mean, in a modern day era, I suppose. Like with the technology the way it is right now, and the sort of information that we can get out to people and intake ourselves. So it's definitely every day something new.
Alrighty. Daniel, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Miles.